Good evening. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order, and we'll ask Corinne Calamine to explain why we have so many guests in our front.
Okay, well, I'm Corinne Calamine. I'm the Scoutmaster of Troop 8 at Grace Lutheran Church here in Watertown, and we are earning our citizenship in the Community Merit Badge, and we need to observe a public meeting. So that is what we're here to do tonight, and to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everyone, place your right hand over your heart. Please remove all non-religious headgear. Scout salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Glad you're here, and if you have some questions, you can catch one of us afterwards, and I hope you enjoy your evening. Roll call. Please note that all members are present. Stuart Stein is here via phone. Conflict of interest, 2.2. Is there any conflict of interest that needs to be identified?
Point of order, sir.
Okay. So for conflict of interest, I need a motion.
No,
we'll do the
consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, there's, yeah, I'm sorry. Consent agenda. Motion to, for the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, second by Laura. Now, roll call, we can do this. All present, Stuart Stein by phone. Conflicts of interest. Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed. 2.3, review approval of the agenda.
Should be as presented.
Okay, motion?
Nope, just received.
Just-
We don't need- That's right, this is all consent agenda. Okay, 2.4, approved minutes of July 11, and then the financial reports.
Perfect.
So Heidi?
Thanks, John. In the general fund, we received the first monthly state aid payment in the estimated amount of $1.1 million. This amount will be adjusted once the district's 24-25 enrollment is verified. Federal revenue in the amount of $394,000 was received and is related to ESSER grant funds. The revenue was exceeded by the expenditures, which is typical for the month of July. Expenditures included the renewal to workmen's compensation insurance in the amount of $104,000. And a payment to security benefit for the annual early retirement payment in the amount of $552,000. This fund's ending cash position of $8.7 million reflects a slight increase from previous year and is due to the timing of the liability insurance payment, which will take place in August. Capital outlay revenue consisted of the typical July property taxes. Expenditures included $1 million in debt service payments and $535,000 towards construction in progress of the athletic complex. This fund's ending cash position of $7 million reflects an increase compared to the prior 2 years. Special education received the first monthly state aid payment in the estimated amount of $244,000. This amount will also fluctuate slightly until the final enrollment numbers are confirmed. This fund's ending cash position of $2.5 million reflects improvement over the prior 2 years. Enterprise activity in K-12 nutrition, preschool, and concessions will pick up with the startup of school this month. LATC received several different revenue sources, including $533,000 in federal grants. The decrease in cash position is directly related to construction in progress of the archway and a reported receivable from the state for quarter 3 and 4 GOED equipment grant claims in the amount of $1.7 million. A foundation contribution of $3 million will take place in August. When considering the contribution left to collect, the cash balance reported at $3.9 million is reflective of $7.4 million and above that of the previous year when considering the receivable and contribution revenue. Bookstore, food service, and Educare brought in sales and expenditures as typical for this time of year, with increased activity anticipated in the upcoming months. In the Employee Benefit Trust, the premiums were exceeded by the claims and administrative costs during the month. This is typical as the district's 10-month employees do not contribute to the plan during the month of July and August. The ending cash position reflects a decrease. Premium increases to the plan will take place in September payroll. The trend of the plan anticipates that increased premiums will be necessary in future years to offset increased claims and high-cost claimants that are steadily increasing. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Driver's ed went well this summer?
It did go well. Do you know the numbers, how those rolled out?
I want to say it was 180 kids went through, or close to. We added staff this year, so we were able to increase the number of students we serviced. So,
And another thank you to Arrowhead for their contributions for our students who took driver's ed but qualified for free and reduced.
Thank you.
I know we don't have student staff recognition on here. This is typically when we do it. I have a couple staff members.
Yeah.
We have 3 new administrators that I'd like to introduce to the school board and the public tonight. Taking over at Lincoln Elementary, and she will also be in charge of our English Language Learner Program this year, is Mrs. Becca Briggs. Welcome. You want to come up and glam for the camera?
Yeah.
Have your awkward moment in the spotlight. Is there like a little X here?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
There you go. And then we have 2 new assistant high school principals, Mr. Chris Weber. You got it. And you get to wait for Mrs. Amber Thomas to join you. So welcome to our new administrators to the Watertown School District. And then if I could, have our troop members come on up and stand in front and face the camera. And I'm going to put you further on the spot and have you introduce yourselves. So we'll start on the far left end. If you'd say your name and your grade, please.
I'm Emily Calamon, and I'm going into 10th grade.
I'm Hannah Bartel, I'm going into 9th grade.
I'm Lila Cantrew, and I'm going into 9th grade. I'm Charlie Fassman, and I'm going into 6th grade. Marky Kohlenberg, and I'm going into 10th.
Bentley Cantrew, and I'm going into 6th. Braden Fisk, and I'm going into 7th. Noah Craig, and I'm going into 6th.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Consent agenda. I guess we need to vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Item 3.1, public input on agenda or non-agenda items for LATC. Okay, hearing none, let's go to 3.2, Educare update.
Good evening. Cam Corey with, or Vice President of Lake Area Tech, and for Educare, Lake Area Tech through Educare is really pleased to announce that we are going to offer before and after school care, primarily catered to kindergartners, but we will look at those kindergartners that have siblings in order to offer this service. How this came about was we were made aware through an internal survey through the K-12 district, and we were informed that a third of those incoming kindergartners did not have daycare. And so we looked at Educare and our capacity and if we were able to meet the needs of the community, and we believe that we will not only meet them but exceed them through our facility, through our staffing, and I would say that our costs are going to remain standard as what has been offered through the Boys and Girls Club. This will be Monday through Friday, and we will offer before school care beginning at 6:30 a.m. until the district picks up in a bus, and then they will go directly to school. So they're not going to go through the normal bus route. It'll be a direct from Educare to their school. And then after school, a bus will do a direct route right to Educare, and we will provide care until about 5:45 p.m. Costs involve $135 a month for after-school care and $155 for a month for before and after-school care. This will include snacks and a milk after school, and it also will include the early dismissals on Wednesday. On the Wednesdays within that cost. So we're really excited to be able to offer this service to the community. The college subsidizes Educare through offering of the building, offering or paying for utilities and for custodial. So we're able to provide this service to the community at a really fair rate. And I'm open for any questions.
It's a great addition to the community, and I thank you for doing all the legwork on that.
You're welcome. We're excited to be able to do it. And
Much needed.
thank you.
Thank you for the work on
And
that.
you said 30 slots?
Actually, we are going to look at 40 slots
Okay.
For kindergarten age, but again, we would allow those first and second graders, and we're a licensed facility, and so we can go up to second grade in there, but we're going to cater to those kindergartners, knowing that that is a major need in the district for after-school care. And then if they have a sibling, we want to make it as easy as possible for those families to keep their siblings together.
And for some context, the survey he's referring to went out when we did our kindergarten roundup, and it was essentially broken into thirds. A third of, so also announced earlier this month was that the Boys and Girls Club will run a Project Learn program on site at McKinley. That goes till 4:30, and that is free. So when surveyed, a third of our parents responded that the 4:30 time would meet their needs. A third said they could use more time or a longer window after school, which the Educare program needs, and then the other third said that they would not require after-school care. So we feel like, per the survey, between Project Learn, Educare, we have addressed the 2/3 of our incoming kindergarten students who required or the families wish to have after-school care. So we really do, from the K-12 with the reorganization and having the early childhood center, we really appreciate Lake Area stepping up to the plate. And then a reminder on some of the busing. Cam had mentioned the different direct shuttle routes, but we will also have the direct shuttle routes to the Boys and Girls Club from Lincoln, Jefferson, and Millette. And the Boys and Girls Club would serve as after school for grades 1 through 4. Kindergarten students, that was kind of the hang up. Kindergarten students are not eligible for Boys and Girls Club services. So meeting those needs is really, that's a great feat to help our families.
And just one other thing is, I'd be remiss if I didn't give information on how to register. And we are opening registration this Wednesday, and you could register online, first come, first served basis at lakeareatech.edu/campus/educare, or you can just go on and Google Lake Area Tech Educare, and it'll take you right to the site where they can register.
So this Wednesday, did you say a time?
This Wednesday, we hope in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be ready for day's business.
And this program will be Monday through Friday. I know Project Learn is just Monday through Thursday.
Yes, this will be
okay.
Monday through Friday, correct.
If somebody wants to phone and get more information, what's the best phone number?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, wait, I might have that number.
Okay.
605-882-5284.
882-5284.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you for the update. Okay, item 4.1, personnel for LATC.
Good evening. Tiffany Sanderson, Lake Area Tech. I'm going to be working off the blue sheets with today's updates in front of you. So up first, under 4.1.1 resignations, we have 2 resignations on the schedule before you, and seek your approval as those are presented.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move a motion to approve resignations.
Second?
Second?
Okay, I suppose I need to identify. Motion by Laura, second by Rossman. Discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Personnel item 4.1.2.
Thank you. Before you are a variety of contract recommendations. You'll find 7 faculty, 3 staff, and a variety of adjunct and hourly contracts. We would recommend your approval as those are listed before you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved by Rossman,
Second.
second by Laura. Questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. 4.2 property.
Thank you. Last month at our meeting, the board approved Lake Area Tech to move forward with authority to bid for several airplanes for our fixed wing pilot program. We went out to bid, received no qualifying bids for single engine or multi-engine airplanes. So our request before you tonight is your authority to purchase planes, up to 3 single engine planes and 1 multi-engine plane for our fixed wing pilot program at a total budget of $400,000. All of these planes in the fleet would be funded through the State of South Dakota grant that began on July 1st this year. So it was approved by the legislature this last legislative session, and seek your approval for those purchases to be made.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval of the authority to purchase airplanes as explained and presented.
Okay, motion by Moulton,
Second.
second by Laura. Questions?
They're busy out at the airport because they fly over my house every day.
You're very busy. 2 weeks from today, school classes start, so you can expect a little more too.
So, I mean, how difficult is, we didn't get any bids, but when you go out looking, I mean, the pool expands.
That's correct. And so this last year, we had several of the Cessna 172s that we purchased as well. A couple of those came in through bid, and a couple in this same situation where bids didn't come in, but we were able to look on the open market and find a couple that fit our needs. Sometimes those planes, the shell is in great shape, but we need to update the avionics or a component of the aircraft. And so I would anticipate that's a similar process that we'll go through here. If we get to 3 single engine planes, 1 multi-engine plane, that will round out the target ratio that we have for fleet to students. And so we'll work within that $400,000 budget. Hopefully we can get all 4 aircraft, but if the budget doesn't allow us to get 4, then we'll scale back as we need to.
How many instructors do we have out there?
Starting this year, we will have 2 full-time instructors in the fixed wing pilot program, plus our certified flight instructors, and those are hourly staff. And similar kind of ratio to our plane fleet, we look for about 5 students to 1 certified flight instructor. And that makes sure that we can keep a safe fleet that is up to date on its maintenance schedule, and allow students to fly when the weather is good.
Thanks.
What type of time frame, I mean, ideally and realistically, when would we expect to have them here?
Great question. I think in an ideal situation, we'd have them back in Watertown in September, but we want to make sure we're making wise purchases and they fit the intent of the program. We're trying to standardize our fleet, so that Cessna 172 is a really important component. So as students are learning to fly, as they go into different planes throughout our fleet, they're not having to relearn an airplane. They can really focus on what's required in their certification checks.
Okay, well, I believe we have a motion and a second. All in favor of item 4.2.1, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Item 4.2.2.
Thank you. Under this item, we're seeking your authority to purchase adult simulators for our nursing program. These will also be grant funded through our federal Perkins grant, budgeted at $91,000. We are able to make a direct purchase through the Sourcewell Purchasing Organization, and so the cost, it comes in just a little bit below budget, $90,633, and seek your approval as those are presented.
Entertain a motion.
I move authority to purchase, that we approve that, the adult patient nursing simulators as explained.
Motion by Moulton.
Second.
Second by Rossman. Okay, any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carried. 4.2.3, authority to purchase skid steer loader.
Very good. This skid loader will be used in our heavy equipment operator program, and similar to the nursing simulators, we're able to go through the purchasing organization Sourcewell and make a purchase of that skid loader from a local dealer, Eastside Equipment, at an estimated cost of $75,900. And seek your approval as that's presented. The GOED, Governor's Office of Economic Development Equipment Grant, will fund that piece of equipment.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval of the authority to purchase the skid steer loader.
Motion by Moulton.
Second.
Second by Lohr. Questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 4.2.4, authority to bid vertical machining center.
Thank you. Before you is a request that we go to bid for a vertical machining center for a precision machining program. This equipment is funded through a donation to the Lake Area Technical College Foundation. An impact partner is coming on board, and part of the agreement is to update our precision machining program with this specific equipment. Our advisory board had helped to give us direction in terms of students should have experience on this particular piece of equipment, and this impact partner has stepped up to say they are willing to help fund that, and so appreciate their support and helping us move the program forward, and seek your approval of the authority to bid as presented.
Okay, entertain a motion.
I move approval of the authority to bid the vertical machining center as explained.
Okay, motion by Moulton. Second?
Second. Second.
Second by Lohr?
Sure.
Okay, any questions or comments?
It's always nice to welcome a new partner to help fund
Yeah.
things. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to the partners. That's wonderful. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. 4.2.5, authority to bid fiscal year 25 equipment.
In your board packets, you'll find a table that outlines about $2.2 million estimated budget in equipment that will be supported either through the Governor's Office of Economic Development grant or the new FY25 state equipment grant. And everything that's on that docket will help move our programs forward. We're trying to push between now and the end of the calendar year to get these purchases made, the equipment into our programs as quickly as we can. Between the grants, we have about $4.4 million worth of purchases to make, and those requiring a bid for procurement thresholds total that $2.2 million. So I'll stand by for any questions you have and ask for your approval as presented.
Entertain a motion.
I move we approve the authority to bid the fiscal year 2025 equipment. There's quite a nice list there too.
It is. Motion by Moulton.
Second.
Second by Rossman. Any questions or comments? Is there any lead time? I mean, can we get these things fairly quickly, or are we still dealing with supply chain problems?
In some cases, we have waits where we put in an order and have to wait several months. As an example, fire truck, we've identified a fire truck that's available for purchase, but that won't be available until after the 1st of January 2025. And so there are some things we'll need to come back to you for under the state grant and make some movements between grant funds. But most things are in a more regular availability.
Okay.
At least compared to a year ago.
Yeah. All in favor of issue 4.2.5, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. 4.2.6, property lease.
Thank you. Our final item tonight is to renew our lease with the Capital City campus in Pierre. They host a site for our nursing program, both a cohort with the LPN program and the RN program. And we have leased classroom, storage, and office space from them the last several years. And this is a renewal of that lease at $13 per square foot. And so for the FY25 academic year, that lease total would be $15,691. We'd seek your approval as that's presented.
Is that comparable to what we have been paying?
It's actually more than we have been paying. They have brought consistency to their leases amongst Lake Area Tech, Dakota Wesleyan, and SDSU in the past because students weren't on site in Pierre quite as much. It was a credit-based, more of a production-based lease agreement, but our equipment, our labs are set up there full-time, and we have actually more students in the Pierre cohort, both for LPN and RN this year. And so what we've agreed to with them we feel is a fair lease agreement for the space that we're using.
Entertain a motion.
I move approval of the renewal of the lease for Capitol Grounds in Pierre.
Okay, motion by Moulton,
Second.
second by Lohr. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the property lease, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Moving to issue 5.1, public input on agenda or non-agenda items. Okay, hearing none, we'll go to 5.2, Northeast Tech High School report.
Yes, a reminder to our board members who are on the Northeast Tech Board, that meeting is next Wednesday, the 21st at 5:45. I did note there is an activity on the Lake Area campus that might require your attention to attend as board members that evening. Bert did say that he has a quorum without the Watertown crew being there, but he also said it might be a shorter meeting, so you might be able to make both if you so choose. So just a reminder on that.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Okay, 5.3, first reading of policies.
Yes, you have ACAA, which is the sexual harassment policy, which really it falls under Title IX. And so Mr. Boyens is our designated Title IX coordinator. He and Mr. Barrios attended training on Title IX this summer, and based off attorney advice, looked at updating our policy. I don't know if Mr. Barrios, you wanted to mention anything else to the board?
No,
Regards
anything
to-
additional at this time.
Okay. So first reading.
Okay, so we don't, there's no
action.
no action. We
Yep.
wait until a month later
Yep.
to take action.
And then 5.3.2 IJNDC, which has been our acceptable use policy. There was a legislative bill this winter that addressed some of the appropriateness of the Children's Internet Protection Act, and so we are updating that per the requirements of the bill, and you see that before you.
Okay, I guess we move to item 5.4, which is the summer curriculum update.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm happy to be with you to share some updates about the work we've been up to over the last couple years. Try out my fancy clicker here. You've heard me before just explain kind of the curriculum cycle, but what I picked out tonight is just a summary of the curriculum is really an organized plan of instruction. So the state provides us with standards, but then our district works to select materials and methods to support student learning of those standards. So it includes the units, the resources, the textbooks. A lot of people think that's what curriculum is, but really it also would include the plan for our coursework, the sequencing of them, the pacing, and all the instructional practices that are utilized. Our curriculum cycle this last year, we were in year 1 for science, so I'm referring to the 2023-24 school year. It was our launch year for our science curriculum, and then I'm skipping to the end of the list. We should have been revising social studies, but because of the changes, for 2 reasons, we swapped math and social studies around. Our elementary curriculum, our elementary teachers have a new curriculum 4 years in a row with their core curriculums. Language arts, math, science, social studies, they hit bing, 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 bing. And so we made the decision to flip math and social studies to keep ELA and math apart so that those teachers would have more time to focus on those core areas. It also so happened that that's as the state was adopting their social studies standards, and so it worked out well because social studies will not be in effect until 25. And so our math cycle, we are in year 2 of the adoption portion of that, and we will have a new product for this fall. And then social studies will come on board next year for the fall of 25. You're going to have to wait until September for the social studies update, because I'll give you all of those details then. So tonight I'm going to focus mostly on math and the work that we did for that launch. I did stick one slide in just to recap kind of our launch year for science, because it was our K-5 stuck with Mystery Science. That was the same product they've used before, but we spent time reorganizing that and adopting different assessments within it. Our 6-8 chose Elevate Science by Savas, and so that was a new product for them at the 6-8 levels. We reorganized, instead of being earth science, life science, physical science, they each will have some units of each, so that was the change for the 6-8 levels. And then at 9 through 12, we have a variety of products and companies. The biggest course changes we made in science, I summarized for you last year, but the reimplementation of physical science as a required course, and then adding environmental science as a dual credit option. This was year 1 of that. So those are the 2 biggest things that they're probably the 3 biggest things between the middle school and middle grades and those changes at the high school. So it has gone well. So that was the biggest change in science. What I'm going to spend the most time talking about tonight is just the adoption of our math curriculum. We were in year 2 of that, and I've given you some updates along the way, but I'll kind of summarize some of the decisions that have been made through that work. So you'll see from the committee slide member that there's a large number of staff who are involved in this review. We try to have representation from all of the grade levels. We have all of our middles, intermediate, middle, and high school math teachers involved as well as many of our principals, and so we really do try to listen to the voices and try to make good decisions as we go. Our math standards were adopted in 2020 by the state. They're really 2-part standards. There's the mathematical practices and the mathematical content. And I would say the mathematical content would be that next slide that shows the operations and algebraic thinking, the number systems, expressions and equalities, algebra. All of those pieces are what you traditionally think of as math instruction. That's only half really of the math standards though, because the other portion of that is the math practices. And so that next slide shows you those 8 math practices. I would consider these to be the skills of mathematics. So within all of that content areas, we want students to be applying those skills. So it's making sense of problems, working with precision, modeling with mathematics, looking for strategies, reasoning and quantitative thinking, so all those pieces that play into the skills of math as well. I just pulled this little piece out of the math standards that were adopted and highlighted that portion because we really, as a mathematics curriculum review team, landed at this same conclusion, that without a flexible base from which to work, students will be less likely to consider analogous problems, represent problems coherently, justify conclusions, apply the math to practical situations, use technology mindfully, to work with mathematics, explain the mathematics accurately to another student, step back for an overview, or deviate from known procedures to find a shortcut. So those are really the things we need students to be doing, and that's how the standards were written and designed. So that has been the focus of the work that we've been doing. You'll see on that purpose of a curriculum work is always to create the best math learning opportunities focused on all students. Working from a research base, making sure that we are providing coverage of the content, consistency between coursework, making sure that our instruction follows quality practices, and then being responsive to the needs throughout the life of the adoption. Really having that student focus that both addresses the practices and the conceptual understandings. So over the course of the 2-year adoption cycle, last summer, or actually the last school year, the school year 22-23, we had a math study group work on revision of just what is the best practice in math saying these days, what should we be paying attention to as we work through our adoption. They worked during that school year and then took their findings. We shared those with the larger committee that began in the summer of 23. I shared with you, I believe last year, that a lot of our focus, we focused on the science of remembering and how we can help students to better refresh and utilize those skills over time, so it's not just a memory that is forgotten, but it's something that we will help them utilize moving forward. We spent a lot of time working with the math progressions of skills as they move K through 12, and making sure staff at all levels kind of understand what makes good math learning and how they can build upon and scaffold learning for students, and then the math practices that I referenced before. During the school year, we spent a lot of time reviewing data with our grade levels and departments. We looked at our course offerings and scheduling, and then worked to review materials. And so I'll give you that summary as we go. This summer has been spent on training within those selections and then mapping curriculum to be able to support staff as they move forward through the school year. So, on this slide, I showed you kind of the core beliefs that we landed on with the different groups that we worked with. And we agreed as groups that met that if we believe in these things, then all of our decisions should reflect these beliefs. And so I'm just going to summarize them with a few slides. I'm not going to read you that list, but I'll show you a couple reminder slides. The brain development that we did really emphasized the fact that we need both explicit and inquiry-based instruction, so that explicitly we need students to be able to move through the stages of conceptual, relational, and procedural knowledge, that there's a real sequence to that we need them to progress through, but also the inquiry portion helps students to apply their learning and make it stick and make it refreshable in their mind. And so we were looking for a product that would have a good balance of those two portions. I've shared this list of effective teaching practices before, and I've highlighted a couple things within here that we want to be really using proper tasks that engage students, that we want a lot of discourse or discussion, both not only from the teacher perspective, but from the students driving each other to their learning, using purposeful questions, and then really supporting that productive struggle, that students have to understand that it may not be easy the first time they try it, but by working through it, that math is not something you have or don't have. It's something you can learn and that you can get better at through practice and skill. The cognitive levels of demand, one of our beliefs was that we should be expecting high levels of these cognitive demand skills, that our skills should be based in these areas. And so I just put that in as a piece of reference for you, that those are the things that we're trying to work towards in our design of instruction. And then I put in a little clip about the different tasks that would really support problem solving for students. And so we have found that not all tasks have the same results. And so we want to be choosing the tasks very meaningfully and thoughtfully to give our students those experiences that will move them through the levels of skill. We want them to move from conceptual understanding to really becoming procedural, where they can do it with more automaticity, but knowing that they have to develop the core understanding first, and that is a two-way flow, that even if they understand it initially, like as they get to more difficult concepts, they will have to revisit their conceptual understanding to build that base. So some of the programming changes that we have been working on and have made, this is an overview of them, and I'll offer you more specifics. Really wanting to emphasize the foundational beliefs to guide our instruction, and so our grade level work at the elementary levels and our department work at the secondary levels has really focused on understanding how that progression of skill builds. And so we'll just keep reinforcing that portion as we go. The second thing that we decided early on is we were only offering an accelerated an Algebra 1 course. We will now offer both accelerated and regular Algebra 1 to set our students up for some different pathways and coursework that is available as they get to the high school levels. A big change for next year is that our Algebra 1 and the Accelerated Algebra 1 course at the high school will be offered as year-long skinny courses. We've talked about that for a number of years. We've been trying to work out ways to really support that more extended learning over time. And so it took significant effort, so I really want to thank our principals and counselors for making the changes necessary, and also to our social studies team, because to make this work, you need to be able to pair the courses to be able to offer a skinny portion within a block schedule. And so we were able to make that work, and is happening this fall, so that as a 9th grader, the students involved in Algebra 1 or Accelerated Algebra 1, it will be an everyday course, 45-minute course for the entire year. We have put an emphasis on ACT and Smarter Balance type questions. We've been working at our secondary levels to try to incorporate some of those higher level thinking pieces within their planning. And we've really tried to educate staff about the different math pathways and opportunities for math learning. I'll go through those next, but we did that K-12, actually pre-K through 12, just wanting all of our staff as a whole to be on board with, this is where students go with learning math in our district. These are the opportunities they will have as they go. And so it has resulted in some different course changes. If you want to pass that down, Mr. Barrios, it might be easier to look on this purple sheet that's coming, is a little more clear, readable portion. I'm going to start with the one that's got the math progressions. And I covered the bottom portion because at the top piece of that through grade 8, it's pretty, it follows a pretty logical sequence. Our goal overall is to provide students smoother transitions as they move from program to program. We wanted to keep students engaged in math learning to make sure that they always have somewhere to go for their next level of math learning, and to allow movement between our pathways, and to create opportunities for that 4th year of math so that students know that they will have more math to take if that's an area of interest for them. So on this purple sheet, you'll see that the first 2 columns, we've got a traditional pathway and an accelerated pathway. The majority of our students, high majority of our students, land in those 2 pathways. The other 2, I'm not going to talk at length about, but our tag students, there are some opportunities for them if they qualify meeting some of our different gifted criteria. We're talking maybe 4 to 12 students at most out of a class, so it's a very small portion that would follow that pathway. And then
folks who don't know what the acronym TAG.
I'm sorry, talented and gifted. So our gifted students have the opportunity to do some different course pathways within their course of study. And then our special ed students, if they're on an individualized education plan, they would have different programming. So the far 2 right columns would be very small numbers of students, so I'm going to focus my discussion tonight on the first 2, the traditional and the accelerated pathway. So you will see that in grades K through 4, the learning for both groups, well actually K through 6 would pretty much be the same for those groups. They move through the classroom, and the classroom teacher tries to meet the different needs of students within those classrooms. They do different enrichment or acceleration within their normal coursework and meet students' needs that way. And then the split may begin to happen in grade 7, that students on the traditional pathway would take 7th grade math and then pre-algebra. Some students, typically 1 or 2 sections of 7th grade, would take pre-algebra instead. And if they take pre-algebra, then they are on that accelerated pathway. That's the first place that happens. They technically skip 7th grade math, but in the 7th grade pre-algebra, they've really designed their first unit to be those gap skills. And then they know that those students would have pieces that they'll have to supplement as they get to those within that pre-algebra coursework. And so we feel like students are well prepared to meet the needs if they're on that accelerated pathway. And then when they get to the high school or to the 9th grade level where they're issued high school credit, or they can be issued high school credit, this is where you might want to flip to the other side, because the little graph at the bottom is the graphic that I have on the board. It just shows the different ways that the students can work their way through those course options. And so whenever they take pre-algebra as their first course, whether in 7th or 8th grade, then they would have kind of the next step would be to take an Algebra 1 course, either regular traditional Algebra 1 or accelerated Algebra 1. Then they take geometry on either side of that pathway. There is a different course that you'll see highlighted in red on the screen, that Algebra 2 with financial applications versus an accelerated Algebra 2 course. We redesigned the Algebra 2 course to include more financial pieces to make it more relevant for students. All students are required to take math through Algebra 2, and Algebra 2 tends to be a more challenging course for some of our students who are less interested in math. They're maybe not pursuing a math career, and so we wanted that course to be more approachable for them, to be able to see application to their own lives. And so that's a new title. It will still cover the same Algebra 2 skills, but kind of at different levels. And then you'll see the arrows go all over the place. After those first 3 years, students in high school are required to take through Algebra 2. That 4th year of math would be elective. And we want students to see themselves as math learners and to see opportunities for themselves to be able to take and be successful in a math class. And so you'll see that there are 3 options there across the bottom. I'll start in the middle. Actually, we've had college algebra, and we have, to this point, had it tied with accelerated Algebra 2. It is a dual credit class, and it follows more of a college curriculum to be able to offer the dual credit, and so it has been separated from the accelerated Algebra 2 course, and it would be a standalone, and students on either of those pathways would be able to take that college algebra class. We had students who would take the traditional pathway and then want to cross over to the accelerated Algebra 2 because they wanted the dual credit without necessarily having the skills in place or having been on the accelerated pathway, and so we felt like making this more clear delineation would allow them to make that move and still be successful within that course. And it does follow the way the standards are required by the state. The Introduction to Stats and Probability is a new course. We have been offering an AP Statistics course, an Advanced Placement Statistics course. But a lot of students, when they see accelerated placement, they don't see themselves in that class, and they really would shy away from it. But we know that statistics would be an area that would be applicable to many different careers, and so to be able to offer that as a high school class, high school level course, we made it an introduction class, meaning that if they take that, they would still then have the opportunity to take advanced coursework in college. It's not a college level course, it's not a dual credit course, it is a full credit, so it does fit within the structure the way our courses are offered, so students would be able to fit it within their schedule. And then on the far right, the pre-calculus, we have always offered that as an accelerated course, and then students would be able to take AP Calculus, which is a credit and a half, and then the AP Statistics would be that other half credit. And so by offering these different pathways, we want students to be able to see that they can cross over from side to side, and they can get kind of as far down the pathway as they might choose to get. And you will see from the description, this is from the high school registration booklet, just kind of the guidance that says, you know, if this is an interest of yours, there are ways to, with careful planning, that you can take math coursework to be able to get to the different course opportunities that we offer. So I guess that the next slide would just be that full sheet that I then gave you as the purple copy.
Can you go back one?
This one?
So I think it says here that they can move between pathways. So like if a student had been on the accelerated trajectory or the path there,
yep,
but they did have more interest in that Algebra 2 with the financial, can they skip over to that?
They can.
Okay.
Yep. We would encourage them to stay with the more accelerated if they see, depending on their career choices, but yes, it is possible. And we actually have teachers recommending students to move between them now, but it just becomes a little more visible when it gets to that 4th year of math.
Accelerated math obviously is a challenge. We already offer a weighted for AP classes. This would be a great opportunity to add weight to accelerated classes, particularly to encourage students to challenge themselves and take upper level classes, particularly in math. So that's something.
It would be interesting to find out if that would motivate them. I mean, we would need to find out, because that's not typically what we're hearing from students when they register. So we would want to check that out.
Something to consider.
More of an observation, I think adding the introduction to the statistics class was a great move, because that's something I feel like I had nothing of in high school, and then I got to college and that kind of rocked my world, so not necessarily a good way. So yeah, a little intro would have been helpful. So yeah, maybe I wasn't listening out that day. I apologize to my teachers, but yeah.
And there are stats standards, but it is just a whole different beast when it comes to field of study, and so we are excited to be able to offer that as more approachable for students. Any other course questions before I go on?
Nope. If no other questions,
Well, actually, I have a couple
you're
things
not
left
done
to
yet.
say.
You're done with purple shape, but not
I know. Selection of materials. Over the course of the 2 years, we looked at a number of products that would meet the needs. So that whole lead-in was to show what we were looking for when we were trying to select the materials. And so we did take a team to the National Council for Teachers of Mathematics conference in Washington, D.C. last fall. Thanks to Arrowed for that. And we've had over a dozen samples that we kind of looked at as teammates. And in the end, I know you can't read it, you don't need to read it, but I stuck in the copy of our rubric just so you could see the different things, like how many pieces of consideration we had for selecting our products. In the end, each level had about 4 that they narrowed down to, and we had presentations from the companies to come in and kind of pitch their product to us and talk us through how their product would work. And in the end, here is where we landed. Our preschool, junior kindergarten, and kindergarten classrooms use a product called KinderMath by Tara West. That is what they have been using, and we just didn't find anything that they felt met the needs of those early learners as well as that product, and so they will continue with that product. We have identified a few things that we want to kind of supplement within that to be able to better prepare them for upper grades, but far and away, the team as a whole wanted to stick with that product, and we did due diligence and we landed on the same thing because we agreed that it would be the best fit for those young learners. For grades 1 through 6, we selected illustrative mathematics, and it is pronounced illustrative. It came out of Australia originally. It's sold by Imagine Learning, and so that is the product that our 1 through 6 staff have selected. We really were hoping for a product that would span the grades and not break in the middle between 5 and 6. And a lot of products would break there because a lot of 6th grades are at a middle level. And so we really felt it was important that we try to keep it consistent for students. And so we were very mindful of where that break would be. We either wanted it to be before 5th or after 6th. And in the end, we landed on a product for grades 1 through 6. Grades 7 through 12 selected Reveal Mathematics from McGraw-Hill. We have been using McGraw-Hill, but Reveal is a new version of that product. It does include more choices instructionally. Each of the skills are presented with a number of presentations for teachers to be able to select from, and so we felt that was a good upgrade for their product. Our implementation plans in terms of carrying that out then, one big goal is that we want to make sure that we have continued support through the implementation of the product. We want to make sure that we aren't just launching it and then walking away. So you'll be hearing about a few things that we're going to be doing to support that. We did our Reveal training for secondary levels in June of this year. And so they then wrote their curriculum maps and pacing guides, and will continue that work through their department time each month. Our illustrative math training was just August 1st, so just last week we had all of our first through 6 staff. We had 2 of their national trainers here to do that training work. And I'm going to skip a bullet to the monthly review preview meetings. We are planning to, during pre-service, we'll meet with each grade level. And then throughout the year, there's a series of 8 of them, times when they will come together as a grade level to kind of review the previous unit and preview what's coming up next. And committee reps will plan those, along with our math coach, Michelle Wills, has been instrumental in this adoption, and so she and I and those math reps will really work on presenting, here's what's been working, what do we need to think about for next year, and then what's coming up next that we need to prepare for. And so I'm excited to see if that structure will work to really support staff as they go. Backing up to the consistent grading, our 7 through 12 team really spent some time digging into just some grading practices, some grade book setup, just trying to be consistent about the experience our students would have as they move through math classrooms. We don't want it to be vastly different from one geometry room to the next geometry room. If you have a different teacher, it should be a similar foundational understanding. And so we really worked at identifying some of those practices and beliefs, and we are also looking forward to our pre-service speaker is Myron Dweck, and he will be talking to us a lot about ways to set up different grading and to consider student work, and so we will continue to revise that as a result of that opportunity. Through the next step will be to develop those common assessments and making sure that our expectations remain consistent and clear. So, there we go. That's what's been happening in the math world. It's been a busy couple years, and we're excited it will continue to be busy, but happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Who wants to start?
Go ahead.
Okay. Math scores, obviously, the past few years have been a concern of the board, deep concern on all levels. So we're expecting a good change, looking for something that will really help that. And the freshmen move to skinnies, I look forward to seeing that implemented. That will be opposite world geography, and there will be 2 levels, I understand, traditional and accelerated for that, for world geography. Is there a print textbook for this math series for the IM, illustrative math?
There is.
So each student will have a copy of it?
For illustrative specifically,
Yeah,
we will have,
for
we
1 through
ordered the
6.
print copies for the first year, and then we will have online access through the life of the adoption. With our last adoption, we ordered print for everyone, and after the first year, we had the opportunity with the company, because the online presence has become so much more prolific, and the ways teachers are delivering and the lessons through Google Classroom and different online platforms. They had the opportunity to then say, do you want to keep getting the books, or are you using the online more? And at the time we had, I'll just roughly say half and half, but that was in year 2 of our 6 years that we've had this math, and every year it's been fewer and fewer have been using the print, and they've been relying on the running copies of the things that they want students to do, and using the online delivery methods, using whiteboards, using group work. And so at this point, we've chose to buy the workbooks for the first year, and then they will have the same opportunities they did going forward.
Okay, so for grade 1, it will be a print version.
For the first year.
Then after that, it
Yeah.
won't be. So they'll be reading on their iPads.
Well,
For some of it.
for the most part, it would be the teacher providing the work. They would copy the pieces that they want. There's a lot of content within the workbook, and they just don't use them all.
Okay.
And so we said, we'll buy the workbooks the first year and then pick out all the things, you try them out.
So
If you
they can
use-
photocopy
They
whatever.
can copy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What other schools in the state are using IM for grades 1 through 6? Do we know?
Sioux Falls does at their middle levels. Willow Lake joined us for our training, so they are adopting it now. That's what I know of off the top of my head.
Okay. I look at the scores for schools across the state consistently, elementary, high school, middle school. I would hope that we also considered schools that have top scores, particularly in math and other subjects, that they are using. What are they using? Did we talk to them? It'd be interesting to know. So I understand, I went in and actually spent quite a bit of time playing with IM. It's still Common Core. It's part of something called Open Commons, isn't it? You want to explain that?
Open source?
Open, source? Yeah.
So illustrative mathematics started as an open source, which means it's
Was free.
Yep,
Yeah.
and they are they certify with different partners to produce their materials. And so there are a number of companies that would sell illustrative mathematics. Kendall Hunt, Kidham, McGraw-Hill had a version of it, and the one we chose is Imagine Learning. They each package it in their own way. They package it with their PD supports in the way that they support the product. And so we chose to go with Imagine Learning as the producer of illustrative mathematics. It is built around the Common Core, but I mean, it is our South Dakota standards as required by the state.
Mm-hmm. Is the cost pretty consistent with what we had before for a program? Is this program more expensive? Not that that was a big deal.
It's
but
consistent with other products right now. It is
Okay.
not consistent with what we've paid in the past.
Yeah.
They're all more expensive.
Understandable. And I noticed you mentioned that we coordinate with state testing, ACT and Smarter Balance, so that what they're learning in the classroom is also similar to what they should be being tested on. How much memorization? Do you know if they're still required to do memorization, such as memorizing multiplication table? 'Cause I
That is
didn't
always the
notice-
goal, yes.
When I went through, I didn't notice that. So I hope it's still there.
Well, each grade has a certain fact base that they're responsible for having in place. So in kindergarten, they're supposed to know their numbers through 10. And then by second grade, it's through 20. And they're supposed to know all the facts within that. Multiplication is third and fourth grade. They're expected to have them learned by then. Like there's a sequence of which skills are in place.
Good. I played around with several lessons, 2nd grade through 8th grade, and I have some concerns. I found many of the problems were presented were too wordy, particularly for 1st and 2nd grade students. I found that the vocabulary was quite advanced, and for poor readers, I would think this would be a concern. A lot of it was story problems. So as I worked through, I also read quite a few reviews of IM. And what I discovered, other teachers have discovered as well. It doesn't seem to present as many skill or problems to really zero in on a skill. It kind of moves on very quickly. So I have a concern about that. There aren't enough practice problems. So
And it is true that they don't have as many practice pieces because the skills cycle back through. Like that's how that program is designed. I actually put in a couple slides. They are problem-based lessons. And so these are a couple slides from our PD that we did during the school year with our elementary grades, just as an example for you. Here would be a traditional word problem that maybe we have seen in different materials before. It sounds fairly common. Has some cards in his bag. Ashley gave him 13 more. He now has 21. How many cards did he have in his bag? But a problem-based learning might do something like this. Like it poses a question. Like instead of giving the whole story, which is what you're talking about, like being able to read the whole thing, if you give kids a question, how many cards did Joe have in his bag? Well, all of a sudden they're much more curious. Well, what kind of cards? Why did he have them in his bag? How many did he? I mean, they start creating the story to go with it. And so the idea of that problem-based learning, we did something called a 3-act task. Really, the emphasis in the learning that we'll be doing is over the context over the numbers, trying to integrate those math practices, finding ways to invite students really into the math. So we want what's called a low floor and a high ceiling. We want everybody to feel like the math is approachable and they can take it as high as they can. And so low floor, high ceiling was a high priority when we were selecting a product. And that is one of the reasons that we did choose illustrative mathematics, because we felt that this philosophy does match what we were looking for. So just as an example, that's one of the pieces that I wanted to share.
again, I'm concerned that there isn't enough practice for skills. The wording on many of the questions I found confusing, particularly at the lower level, grades 1, 2, and 3. I wouldn't think this would be a friendly program for subs coming in. How much training have our substitutes had before they would be stepping into the classroom? If a student misses class, how much are they going to fall behind? Because it seems to follow a lesson a day. It just moves on from one topic one day, next topic the next day. It moves rather rapidly. Lack of depth, I found that seemed to be missing. Too much emphasis again on story problems rather than doing quick math. I think that grades 1 through 6 should be fundamental math. You need to have a problem, you can figure it correctly and quickly. Too many of the problems I saw, it was, okay, can you figure it this way? No, figure it this way. And rather than just coming up with an answer, the question was, how to prove how you found that answer.
So that would go back to the slide about conceptual understanding.
Yep. It's heavy for, it's learning for visual learners. For other learners, it might be confusing. I think students might find some frustration with this program. I think that the assessments might be a worry. The pacing might be too fast for slower learners. I think it needs a lot of extra work to fill in the gaps to make sure that students have really mastered the skills before they move on. And I'm not sure I'm a fan of this program. So it remains to be seen. Seems to be that teachers are writing most of the instruction without students have an actual physical example in front of them on a piece of paper or a workbook. So it relies mostly on a teacher up here at the board showing examples, at least of what I saw. But
No, they're gonna have a book, and I mean, I think
they'll have an iPad in the upper left.
They will be working on materials at their tables with paper, with manipulatives, with whiteboards. I mean, I think it will feel like they're doing math. Like being involved, the whole point is to have them engaged in the discussion about it, explaining their thinking. We're excited about it. I mean, the committee that worked on it, we feel like this is what our students need to have some different experiences with math.
How much different is it from the previous program that we had?
It's our previous problem was not problem-based like that.
Mm-hmm. I will be welcoming an invitation to come into classrooms and actually see it in action, because I do have some questions.
Part of it is that we felt like we needed a change to be able to have different outcomes. Like we've been working on math and trying to influence change, and so we're hopeful that this will be a good step to build a strong foundation for our students.
and part of it, like for me, the words that stuck out were the what'd you call it? Low floor,
High ceiling.
The idea of inviting everyone to be a good math student, and like the utilization of manipulatives to help kids. I mean, there's a lot of research on doing versus just many people who are deemed good math students do have that ability to, do the math in their head, do that. But that's not the majority of, it's way more common to hear people say things like, I wasn't good in math when and
But
we want to make sure that every student has the opportunity. And that was, I think, a lot of the point of the process was figuring out, because in the end, like when you think about our standardized test scores, you're trying, if you just look at that piece of it, you're trying to have as many students successful as possible. And as she mentioned, we kind of had beaten that horse almost to death of doing the same thing, getting the same outcomes. How can we look at, expanding the reach of the students who feel confident in their math abilities, and some of it's just engaging them in the learning.
And it isn't so much being able to do math quickly in your head. That's a necessary skill too, but also with a pencil, piece of paper, a pen, to be able to do it that way. So I think that the resources, whatever is provided with this program, would be worth looking at. The additional supplemental stuff.
Yeah, I think it hits the different modalities of learning pretty well, as good of a product as you can really ask for from math anyway.
Within that committee, was there any concern from the staff? Was there any pushback from staff within that committee that didn't like it? Or were they majority on board and excited about it?
Part of it was really based on the priorities we set. I mean,
Yep.
it met the rubric, it met the skills, we've done the training. Oh, Sarah's here. She was on the
Hey, Sarah.
But I mean, if you're asking if there's 100% like,
Right, there's never
There's
gonna be
never
100%
100%.
If you look
backing.
at the,
No.
you know, the slide that had the committee members.
Yep.
To get
Yeah,
100% agreement on any one product was
No.
gonna be.
but a majority.
The other concern that we had with the previous math program is students would take work home and their parents were totally unable to help them because it was Common Core for use of jargon, but because of the way that students were required to figure out the answer to a problem was very difficult, and there were several different labor-intensive steps.
Yeah, those
Parents found it
strategies-
frustrating. I got complaints from parents, and even teachers told me it was frustrating.
Those strategies are explicit in the standards. Like knowing how to solve in different ways is what the South Dakota state standards require students to do. And so this does the same thing. Like it does provide students with different ways to think about how to organize the numbers. If they don't have the conceptual understanding before they jump into the more procedural, like rote, solve it this way, they don't ever understand why they're solving it that way. And it catches up to them because the problems get more difficult. And even if they know which steps to follow, if they don't understand conceptually what they're doing, as they get to the higher levels of math, the gap becomes wider. And so that's really why we focus most heavily on the conceptual understanding and foundational learning.
I guess it gets into the whole philosophy, how much theoretical math we should be teaching at grades 1 through 6. And maybe what we need to do is also send a little booklet home with the parents. This is how you do these problems.
We have talked about a parent night.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Tricia. We'll move to action items. 6.1, approval of the bills.
I move approval of the bills.
Okay, motion by Moulton,
Second?
second by Rossman. Any questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 6.2 personnel. Let's go to 6.2.1 resignations.
before you tonight, just 2 resignations of some classified staff, and recommend your approval of those.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve resignation.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Laura, second by Rossman. Any questions, comments? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. 6.2.2 contract recommendations and addendums.
Several different hours and trainings being recommended tonight. One note that needs to be adjusted on personnel here. Would like to have you approve this without Danielle Harm's 3rd and 4th quarter overage. We're still finalizing some specifics with that, so would ask that you approve this, but removing Danielle Harm's as listed, and that'll be brought to you at a later date.
Okay, entertain a motion to accept the contract recommendations and addendums as altered, as Mr. Barrio said.
I'll make a motion to approve as recommended with the adjustment.
Okay, motion by Laura,
Second?
second by Rossman. Questions, comments? All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Motion carried. 6.2.3, educational stipends.
Then 2 stipend requests for credits that were done this summer.
2 or 3? There's,
Oh, yep, there's an updated
one
one on there.
added.
Yep, sorry.
yep. Okay, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Rossman,
Second?
second by Laura. Questions, comments? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. 6.3 property. 6.3.1 Park and Rec Facility Agreement.
Yes, the facility agreement outlines the rental to accommodate the usage of park and rec facilities. The total of this is $14,500, And please note that we have a credit of $4,500 for early out of the city odd from last year, so that's a total contract of $10,000 for school year 24-25.
Okay, entertain a motion.
I move we approval of the Park and Recreation Facility Agreement as presented.
Okay, motion by Moulton,
Second?
second by Rossman. Questions, comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 6.3.2, consider surplus resolution.
Yes, this resolution is to surplus 4 of our buses. We have the Clean Diesel Grant Rebate Program in which we are purchasing 4 new buses this fiscal year. We will receive 25% per bus for the purchase of a 2022 engine model or newer engine certified bus. So looking for resolution for that surplus.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
I move approval of the surplus resolution as presented.
Motion by Moulton,
Second?
second by Rossman. I just have a question, Heidi. I assume because we got the grant, they want these buses, it's kind of like the cash for clunkers of 20 years ago.
Exactly right, yep. So part of the rebate program is to surplus or dispose of or to scrap metal for buses, and in turn we receive 25% funding for the new buses. We'll receive 2 of our buses. 2 of those went through payment this month. We will get those this week, and then the other 2 we're hoping September, October timeframe for those other buses.
Okay.
How many passengers in those?
We are purchasing 3 of them will be 65 passenger and 1 is 72. And as a note, we went out to bid and accepted that bid in April of 2023.
Mhm.
So that's how long it has taken for us to receive these buses.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Any idea how many miles are on the buses we're surplusing?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. That's a good question for Wade.
Yep, I'll ask him next time.
Several, I'm sure.
Okay. We've had the motion and second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the surplus resolution, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. 6.3.3, change order number 1, athletic complex.
Yes, this proposed change order consists of 3 modifications to the project in the amount of $68,484, and that's a deduct to the contract. The changes include concrete revisions at the grandstands and a revision to the grandstand deck to provide interlocking anodized aluminum system. The construction contingency was approved at $525,870,000, and the change order adjusts the remaining contingency to $594,000. The contract for this project is adjusted to $10,770,915, and it is recommended to accept that change order.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval of change order number 1, the athletic complex phase number 2, as explained.
A motion by Moulton,
Second?
second by Lohr. Any questions or comments?
It's nice to see it taking shape over there across the.
And I believe, Dr. Danielson, you explained that the finished product will be similar to what is at USF.
Yes,
and
I
at
think
Northern.
there's no structural change to it's more the facing of it, the look of it, but very similar to collegiate stadiums at the University of Sioux Falls, Northern State, and the newly, they'll be opening that this fall at Dakota State in Madison. So,
Okay.
from a aesthetic view, it will be very similar to that, and with the savings, we can use that. We've got some other things that we're working on that might be able to be enhanced in the project by using that savings, so recommend that change.
Okay, good. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 6.3.4, request for proposals.
Yes, it is recommended to use Collier Securities as the bond underwriter for phase 2 of the athletic complex construction funding, so in the form of a capital outlay certificate. The 20-year amortization schedule notes an average payment of $227,000 and a 3.872% true interest rate with the first payment that will be due in August of 2025.
Okay, entertain a motion.
I move we approve Collier Security as the bond underwriter for phase 2.
Motion by Moulton, second?
Second?
Second by Rossman. Questions, comments? I don't follow this type of interest rate, but that seems favorable.
Yes,
for a-
it is.
for 20-year.
Right now.
Very reasonable.
That's great.
That is really good.
Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. 6.4, approve consolidated application.
Yes, the consolidated application is our annual application for title funding. The way that works is our title funds are designated through the state and federal government. We have to write the consolidated application to essentially in narrative form show both state and federal government how we intend to spend that money. One thing that might be familiar for parents listening or here, but we are using our Title I funding for interventionists at the 3 grades 1 through 4 schools. So there will be 2 interventionists at Lincoln, 2 interventionists at Millette, and 2 interventionists at Jefferson. And that will be a big chunk of that title funding. The consolidated application, a copy is in our district office if anybody is interested in reading that.
Okay, entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consolidated application.
Okay, motion by Moulton,
Second?
second by Lohr. Questions, comments? Who gets to do all the paperwork?
Big thank you to Dr. Bollinger and her crew for that.
Okay.
We appreciate that. That is an enjoyable task each year.
Can you just change the dates for next year and the numbers, or? Okay.
Unfortunately, it would be nice if that's what it was, but there's seems like stuff changes every year.
Okay.
Just a smidge.
Okay, well, thank you for doing that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. 6.5, second reading. We have 2 policies.
Yes, GBEB, the Code of Conduct for Staff, was brought to you last month, and there were no comments, no changes to this, so would recommend your approval.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for policy GBEB.
Move approval of GBEB.
Okay, motion by Lohr,
Second.
second by Rossman. Any questions? Comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Policy 6.5.2, JICI.
Yes, and this was designated in under the student section, so it was in the J's. The new policy would be AF, dangerous weapons in the school, and the reason for the change is moving it out of the student because we are also addressing adult dangerous weapons in the school, and so it now goes into the district organization piece to address both students and adults. So the new policy would be under the A's in our policy manual, and so it'll be AF versus the JICI.
Okay.
And there were no comments and no changes from last month.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve with policy JICI as presented.
Motion by Rossman. Second by?
Second.
Second by Lohr. Okay, any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
Hold on 1 second. We dropped Stewart. I'm gonna call him back.
Okay.
He wished to remain on the call, so I will get him called back.
Hello, this is Stuart. I'm sorry I missed your call. Please leave a message and I'll get back to you soon. Thank you.
Good try. You really wanted to be on the call.
here.
All right.
Hey, good to
Back
hear
on.
you, Stuart.
We just
Not sure
approved-
what happened there.
We just approved the 2 policies.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move to item 6.6, consider 2024 fall athletic fundraising.
Yes, this is our annual request for the Arrow cards, and a reminder that in policy, if we are going to go door to door for fundraising from a school standpoint, that does come before the board. This is our only door to door fundraiser that we do where students would actually be out selling. And I don't know if Mr. Boyens has anything to add to his letter, but I believe that was just rolled over with a new date.
Okay, okay.
Unlike the consolidated app.
I'm gonna proofread that again next year to make sure that it's not the same. We're gonna make you write a new letter. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move the approval of the 2024 fall athletic
Okay.
fundraising.
Motion by Lohr,
Second.
second by Rossman. Questions or comments?
My only question is, what activities does that all apply to?
How much are they?
Okay. Okay. All fall sports then?
The
Okay.
fall sports sell them, right?
Okay.
The fall
Fall
sports
sports.
sell them.
Okay.
They're $20, I believe, right, for the card.
Yeah.
And if you want one, see Mr. Boyens right at the meeting. but-
Well, no, the kids sell
Yeah, I
them.
better buy one from a student.
Yeah, I got
No, you need to see a fall
A fall
athlete,
sport
A fall athlete.
person.
Athlete, yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Because they get credit.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carried. 6.7.1, open enrollments.
Yes, you have before you 3 open enrollment requests that we recommend for your approval.
Okay, entertain that motion.
Move approval of the open enrollments.
Okay, motion by Lohr,
Second.
second by Rossman. Questions, comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. 6.7.2.
Yes, there are 2 132810s also there for your writ of recommendation for approval.
Okay, entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the 132810s as presented.
Motion by Rossman,
Second?
second by Lohr. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. 7.1, administrative reports.
Yes, I have several announcements about the beginning of school. First, we are extremely excited to welcome our staff back this week. Tomorrow we have new staff. They get me in the morning, so I'm sure they're also very excited to be back. And then at noon, the public is still invited, thanks to Tim and the Chamber for hosting our new teacher luncheon out at the Country Road Barn. That's at noon. You can still check with the Chamber for tickets. Then on Wednesday and Thursday this week, we have all staff in service in the D.D. Miller. A big thank you to Reliabank, who provides our lunch for all staff on Wednesday. Board members, you're welcome to stop by in the morning and for lunch if you want to join us on Wednesday. We'll start at 10:30 here in the D.D. Miller. The staff starts in their buildings at 8. And then Mrs. Walker mentioned during her presentation, but we have a gentleman by the name of Myron Dweck speaking with all staff on Thursday about effective grading practices. Then next week, we have our pre-parent teacher conferences open house on Monday, August 19th. That's at all buildings from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Hopefully people have gotten those notices. If you have not, for some reason, received a notice about that, we would encourage parents to contact their child's building for more information. We have one more day of in-service on Tuesday, August 20th, and then school starts on August 22nd at 8:30. For all those also listening, we'll be getting out some more information about the busing. Just because we've made enough changes and updates, some of those were talked about this evening. with regards to the direct shuttle routes and some of those things. So that'll be coming out yet this week to give people a little bit of a heads up for next week. And then I would reiterate my thanks to Lake Area and Educare for their work on the after school. What's that one?
Aero Education Night. Is that coming up?
Harvest is in September. That's on Thursday, September 26th. So I'll probably have a little more info on that.
Okay.
But you can buy raffle tickets if you're interested for the Arrowhead for that. Harvest raffle tickets. You can see Dr. Ballinger, or might be quicker to talk to me.
Okay.
Or me.
Or Carrie.
But that is, you can also just call Chris directly at Arrowhead. But Harvest is coming up in September.
Also, the district sent a text message out for free and reduced lunch. I'm going to put a plug in for you because they put that in text message and that was super slick. So I would say parents out there, complete that application. Went out through text last week. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. The only item I have, are we?
Yes,
you're done with
yes,
your-
I was done with my announcement.
7.2 board report to superintendent. I would encourage board members and anybody in the audience, a book that has had quite an impact on the country already is called Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. And if you've noticed, several schools in the state have instituted cell phone bans, and when I went back and read the stories about it, it really originated with this book. People read it and they said he does a wonderful job as a professional of bringing the language down to layman type so we can understand it. But it's a very powerful book, and so I would encourage people to look at that. And as a board, I'd encourage us to start to have some discussion about cell phone policies. I probably had more comments the last 2 weeks about, hey, what are you doing about cell phones at the schools than anything else. So that's just my 2 cents there.
Some schools have done that already.
Yes, I think
Yep.
that's probably why you got the comments,
Yeah.
is there's
Yep.
some
Gettysburg.
publicity from some of those
Yep.
schools that have decided to do that.
Aberdeen has done it for quite a while.
Okay.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Anything else? Board
Um,
report.
Maybe sometime we could schedule an attendance report of 3 people we hired to work on attendance and how that went.
Yes, that sounds good. We're I don't know if Mr. Barrios has anything to chime in about our Attendance Matters campaign, but we're looking forward to actually a full year of that. I think the half year was maybe more, I'll call it the starfish principle, if you know that story,
Yeah.
one at a time versus large change. But I do think we had some, I'm pointing down there, but we had some statistical too of our chronic attendees going down, but
Yeah, it
off the
was,
top of my head, I don't have those.
it was small, but it was improved, in the few months that they were with us, working. But they're back, meet with them next week to, make sure we're ready to go. But yeah, we've got the 3 family support specialists that, will continue to work with our families and stress the importance of attending school regularly.
Okay. Stuart, anything for you to report?
He fell asleep.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Sorry, couldn't get the mute button. No, I'm good, thank you, guys.
Okay. Thank you.
I move we adjourn.
Motion by Moulton to adjourn. Second? Second by Rossman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion, we are adjourned.
We tied.